My husband and I ranch south of Lordsburg near Animas. My mom bought this ranch in 1995, and so I grew up here through high school, went off to college, came back, and my husband and I have been here for about 10 years. And it's 64 sections. It runs anywhere from 20 to 40 miles along or away from the border. I think the most important dynamic that's changed is in high school, whenever we ran into parties, is what Border Patrol refers to them as out here, they were legitimate family units. You know, the mom, a dad, a couple of kids, maybe an aunt, a grandpa. They were coming across looking for work, looking for a better way of life. They were grateful and humble and thankful. Anything you gave them, whether it was water or a place to sleep or a ride to the interstate, they were always so appreciative and just very humble and thankful. The people that we're running across now are a completely different sort. They're not family units. What we're seeing are mostly men, 25 to 45. They are in phenomenal shape. They're strong. They're aggressive, a little demanding, a little scary. And most of them are dressed in either military, like American military camo, or hunting camo. I think that a lot that we're seeing are drug traffickers. Typically, the ones that we're seeing going back south have probably already made their drops. Probably the most dangerous because they don't care if they get picked up. Now they've done their job, and typically they're looking to get picked up so they can get a free ride back to Mexico. And so the danger of what they could and might do is pretty high. The ones that are heading north are usually human traffickers, because we rarely see the drug traffickers if they're heading north. They're very good at being discreet. They leave trash. They tear fences apart. They'll tear any kind of water facility apart trying to get to fresh water. They scare cattle off of water where they don't want to come back in. Some of these trails come right through the middle of, shipping pens or working pens, and the cattle won't come in because of the human presence all the time. The biggest thing to me is the threat of who they are and what they're bringing across, especially when you run across them in the pasture. The most recent was probably 2 weeks ago. I was riding back in our mountain country by myself. We had moved cattle out of there the week before, and I was just making some passes through to make sure that we had cleaned everything up. I was riding up a very often used canyon that went down south into a water, and I was looking for cattle up on the slopes, and my horse stopped to pee, so I was looking up along the slopes, not really paying any attention, and I looked down in front of me, and there were 4 men in hunting camo and black masks that were brushed up under a juniper, and it boogered me. Obviously, I kind of jumped, and my horse, I don't think he ever saw him. In the time that it took him to finish, I kind of nodded at him, and I could see that they had carpet shoes on. I could see big bundles stashed behind him, and I just kind of waved and rode. I had to ride right past him because the canyon walls were so steep. They never blinked, they never moved, they never made a sound. They just stared at me. Once I got past them, I found some cattle, and so I had to keep sweeping around kind of close to where they had been, and it was just really scary. The next day, I was back in there again, and I had to come down that canyon from another direction, so I was coming in from behind where I had seen them, and I rode by. Of course, they were gone, and there was no sign. There were no broken branches. There was no tracks of any kind. You could not tell that they had been there the day before, and I can see why the Border Patrol can walk right over tracks, because I know exactly where they were, and I never saw where they came in from or where they left to. I made a circle back around this really high peak that is right at the top, where the canyon's at the bottom of, and I stopped probably 25 or 30 yards from the top. There's kind of a little saddle there, and my horse was pretty smoked, so I unsaddled her and let her breathe out, and I was just looking around at the view and looking for cattle. Anyway, I topped out after I was done, and there was a spotter's camp up on top of that hill, and that really gave me the heebie-jeebies, because you could tell he'd been there for 2 or 3 days. There was lots of sign, lots of trash. You could tell where he'd been bedded down and laying down, and I guarantee you he was there the day before, and on my arms because you knew that he had you in his sights and saw you coming, and so that was a little scary. Most of the time, the spotters stay up high and they radio back to whoever's on the ground on people that are coming in. Typically, they're looking for Border Patrol. I don't know if he saw me coming up the canyon because it was pretty brushed up, but if he did, I'm sure that he radioed to him and said, you know, riders coming up towards you. But typically, they're looking out for Border Patrol, looking for vehicles, looking for planes, and sometimes I'm assuming they're looking for their pickup man too. I mean, I think I happened on those guys. It surprised them as much as it surprised me. Where the wall is finished from El Paso west and from Douglas, Arizona east, it's basically left this corridor right up through the middle of Animas and over the top of the Pyramid Mountains. We don't see the amount of traffic that people south of Highway 9 do. Whoever's coming across here is trying to get to the interstate. They're going to go right up over the top of the pyramids. And so they're right over the top of us every day. And there's an old, they call it the Old Animas Highway that runs from Lordsburg to Animas. It runs right through the middle of the ranch. And it's a heavily used traffic trail. I mean, they can come right out of the pyramids, drop onto that old highway, make their drop, and head back into the mountains and never be seen. And that's 2 miles from our house. There is no way of knowing how many there are. In the last 2 months, they were averaging 15 to 20 a day. Then these numbers are from Border Patrol. Sometimes up to 40 a day is what they've been catching. It's died down a little bit now, and I think it's because there's been so much Border Patrol presence on us in the last couple weeks. But it got pretty bad the last couple months. There was a lot of traffic and very obvious trails coming up. I mean, it looks like a highway. The wall is only going to do so much. It's not going to stop the drug industry. It's going to slow down the human trafficking considerably, and I think it has in places. But what we're running across now is where the wall has stopped in construction. It's just left this open highway right up through the middle of Animas Valley and over the top of us, and I think that's why we're seeing so much right now. In my opinion, presence alone is what's going to make the biggest difference. Here's an example. When they were working on the wall, there was a lot of people down there. I mean, the wall crews, engineers, all different kinds of traffic was down there all the time. And it was traffic across us dang near stopped because of it. They're not going to come through where there is presence. And obviously that presence needs to be Border Patrol. I wish that the Border Patrol would be allowed to do their job. I think that they need to be on the border, not 40 or 50 miles north. And they need to be allowed to do their job. This catch and release is just ridiculous. And the problem is they're so busy with all the asylum seekers that the drug traffickers are just taking advantage of that. I mean, there's no Border Patrol out here anymore because they're so busy processing that the traffickers are just using it to their advantage, and it's wide open. We stay here because this is where we want to be, and this is the lifestyle that we want to live. I think that people that are involved in production ag do it so that they have something to share with their families and pass on to their families. And we hope that one day our daughter wants to be here and wants to continue this and raise a family here just like we do. There's a lot of tradition in what we do, and we want her to be able to enjoy that and enjoy that with her kids. The idea of just packing up and moving is so foreign to me after all the generations that have been here that have sacrificed to keep this going. That's the last thing that we want to do. Even if we did want to move, the real estate value on property south of the interstate because of the proximity to the border is just, I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but it's dropped so much. The value of property south of I-10 is just, it's just completely diminished because of the border security. Nobody would want to buy this, even if we wanted to sell it.